there they are.
Hello.
What's going on, man? Danny, I like the streaks in the hair. Is that something new?
It's
Struck by lightning.
yeah, I got I wish. No, I don't wish. It's a little product of COVID insanity.
He's an
I
expert.
hear you. Got to change it up. In fact, my hair looked almost the exact same as far as just length is concerned back last March, believe it or not.
I never would have guessed. It looks great on you now.
Thanks.
Wow.
I appreciate it. You know, the grays, it gets to a certain point where when you get it too long as an older dude like me, you look like the mad professor from Back to the Future. It's just not a good look, right? It's not a good
Iconic.
look. Jake and Danny from Greta Van Fleet, thanks so much for joining me today, man. So nice to be able to have a bit of a redo on this damn interview. The last time we spoke, you guys were at a hotel in Los Angeles somewhere with really patchy internet connection. And the whole video was just mired by audio issues. And it was one of the very first video interviews that I ever did with a band. And at that point in time, I said, oh my God, do you know you guys are about to blow up to be like the biggest band in the rock music genre in the last century? And sure as hell, it seems to have happened. Congratulations on that, man. What a trip, right?
Yeah,
pretty
it's been
outrageous.
wild.
A
Yeah.
non-stop ride so far.
Yeah, no doubt. The pandemic has really shaken the world of live music, obviously. What's the most important thing you guys as a band and as individuals have been able to do in light of the shutdown that you probably would not have been able to do otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, this year in a very particularly strange way has been sort of double-edged sword in a way. I mean, on one side of the blade, you've got the lack of live shows and touring, which for us, especially being a band that's really, I suppose, the ethos or the core of what we do, at the very form of what we do is play shows. We're a very live band, and touring is a big part of what we do. We haven't been able to do that, but I suppose on the other hand, we've been able to sort of take that sort of creative liberty and that creative energy and sort of, I think move it somewhere else where we've really been able to focus on sort of the visual representations of the album work that we've done, being able to like co-direct a lot of these music videos that we've been coming out with. And I think, curate a lot of what we've done in the last 3 years. And I mean, the Battle at Gardens Gate, the album was done probably around, pretty much in its entirety was done around last summer. And so as soon as the pandemic, had really, set in, we went and started writing a new record. And I suppose this is on the positive side of things, where we came back from the countryside and we had 2 more songs, and they didn't belong on this new record. They belonged on the Battle at Gardens Gate. So you have the Barbarians and Caravel made that record, but that was done during this time. And if we hadn't had, COVID, then I suppose that's something that wouldn't have happened, as well as being able to digest what's happened to us over the last 3 years.
Ease off the throttle a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Lyrically, where does most of the inspiration come from? Is it, are you guys big readers of fiction or nonfiction in your downtime? Or, where do you get the inspiration for some of these lyrics that are so different than, your typical, rock band, rock music?
It comes from a lot of places. We definitely were brought up with literature as far as film and music, and so a lot of it definitely comes from that sort of inspiration of, we love to write and we love to create.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, like this album as a whole is kind of a timestamp of where we are currently. And
Right.
Lyrically, I'd say a lot of it has to do with what we've done in the last couple of years, especially being able to confirm that during the pandemic, having all this time to reflect and sort of think about what has actually happened, because you don't get that. You're not allotted that opportunity on tour in the midst of all of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can kind of see that in the dynamics of the album too. It's from what we've seen, like Danny says, a lot of that sort of informed the lyrical aspects, because it's not all roses out there, when you go up on stage after show's over and someone's cleaning the floor and they find a piece of food and eat it. Cause that's,
Wow.
that's poverty. That's, there's hunger in the world. So I think a lot of that stuff really was a story we wanted to be able to tell on this album.
Yeah. Jake, at your level in your career, and you too, Danny, are you guys relatively sheltered as far as, other business people around, or do you still get out and have some personal life? And how often do you get recognized, going to the damn grocery store? Do you live in a small enough community that, no real big deal?
It kind of really, on tour, especially, it happened very often. And a lot of that is because you're playing in these areas and everyone knows you're going to be in these areas at this time because you have a tour schedule. And but especially since the pandemic, and we're all living this domestic sort of lifestyle, the main goal was to kind of to stay indoors, and you kind of realize no one really was. It was a ghost town. It was kind of scary around here a lot of the time. It was just this off-putting sort of environment. So at least this last year, it hasn't happened a whole lot, and you can't attribute it to anything but the situation that the world is in at the moment. But the hair doesn't help the situation. That's for damn sure.
It's been nice. It's been peaceful.
Pull it all back, get the ball cap on.
Different person. Yeah.
No doubt. Let's talk a little bit about your brilliant singer, Josh, having such a huge range. Back prior to the shutdown, did he ever find it tough to tour and play night after night with how much effort and how he just pounds every single night? Was that ever a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, with his style of singing in particular, it's not, someone going and sitting on a lazy chair and smoking a cigar. There's a lot of involvement in executing the type of, I guess, athleticism it takes to sort of sing like that.
Yeah.
And I think initially we found the routine, but before that it was pretty, it's pretty brutal. It was, but he's, I guess, extremely resilient, because there's only been a handful of shows we've had to cancel because something wasn't right here that he needed a break. But
does he ever have a vocal coach go out on the road with you guys, or is that part of his background? Did he have a lot of formal training?
His background didn't involve any formal training at all. A lot of it was just, God-given sort of learned sort of thing. And, but he did actually see a couple people every once in a while, just as sort of a checkup, like, hey, am I really screwing myself over right now? And there are always techniques you can learn, even drumming, like certain postures, and it's just these little subtleties that you can kind of learn. And I think over the years, he's kind of gotten a great grasp on how to, put out as much as he wants, but also allow him to preserve, because he wants to be doing it forever.
Yeah. Jake, was there ever any struggles growing up in the household with, with Josh wanting to hog up all the hot water because he was singing in the damn shower?
Yeah, exactly. That on top of having 4 siblings and having a water heater that was the size of a pea, maybe. It's it was great. I think that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I want to kind of, and I don't want to keep your time too long, because I know you've been doing a myriad of these things. I think I'm your last call of the day, but I do want to touch on Sam. I knew Sam as a killer bassist from the first album, and his ability to rip up the keyboards on the Battle at Garden's Gate is phenomenal. Which instrument for him was first? Was it keyboards or bass guitar? Or, did all you guys start by learning keys first?
It was actually bass guitar for Sam.
Okay.
He kind of, they had a few keyboards lying around the house, but their father had a bass guitar, and he played guitar, and he had this. Yeah. And Sam has a lot of their dad in them. And Sam is so intellectually intelligent and just a smart human being. And, it wouldn't surprise me if he could learn the fiddle in a couple of days, type situation. He's so, and the keys are very much, everything's in front of you, and there's a lot of mathematics involved, when you're teaching yourself. And it was something that he drew a personal connection to very early on. And I know he was particularly proud of the fact that he was able to showcase that on this album.
In the train.
Yeah. Are you guys at home right now? Where are we at in your?
We're at home in East Nashville.
Oh my God! Wow, what a trip, man! So I guess the train tracks are close by. Danny, the last time that we spoke, I had asked you if you ever had that odd man out feeling, with the three brothers and you, and you said no, we all kind of get along. Now, after a lot of touring and the success of the band, does it ever become a little tender out on the road with the three brothers and you, or is it all for one and one for all?
You would think that potentially could actually get worse in that sense, but honestly, it's the fact that we all kind of went through this experience together, and from a physical standpoint, yes, they share the same blood, and I share a different blood stream, but. Yeah. We were all traveling 100 miles an hour at the same time, going to all these places, experiencing all the culture and the shocks, at the same time. And it's something that you can kind of almost bond over, in a certain sense. So it's actually only grown to be more of a brotherhood.
That's cool.
Since we've last talked.
Arthos, Porthos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
I like it. Well, you guys are all, certainly wise beyond your years, and it shows in your music. Jake, I've only seen the band really on TV shows. I have yet to catch one of your live shows in person yet, because you guys came out and then you did the big festival circuit in the major markets, and we're stuck here in the mountains, but it's definitely on my bucket list moving forward. Forgive me if I'm off base, but the Gibson SG or the Les Paul SG, is that your primary instrument, or did you play other stuff on the album? And what do you like to play live? Does Fender ever come into the mix?
Yeah, so I mean, that's sort of like my number one instrument that I kind of lean on in a way. I grew up playing a Gibson SG P90s in it. This is like a Pete Townsend reissue, I think. But so I kind of grew up with that. And the 1961 Les Paul, which has that SG body shape, kind of fell into my lap one day 3 years ago before we went out. It's a very expensive instrument, but a friend of ours at Chicago Music Exchange lended it to me to go on tour with it. And then as soon as I had enough money, I bought it. And so I've kind of always played that, and it's kind of defined my playing. So, but it's interesting because in the studio, not just in terms of guitars, because there's my guitars, there's producers' guitars, there's a studio guitar. So there's this sort of landscape of stringed instruments laying around to just, try different things. Yeah, exactly. And it's like the same thing with drums or keys or bass, there's all these different things laying around in the studio. So we actually wind up using a lot, especially in the Battle at Barnes Gate. We've been able to do more experimentation than ever before previously. And in terms of like Fenders, I did use a Fender 1972 blonde Fender Telecaster on the Battle at Barnes Gate for a lot of dubbing. And then the Barbarians, that song was a Fender Stratocaster.
Old.
Yeah, another old one. It was a Burst, and that was interesting. But and a lot of Fender amplifiers, which I got into tweeds and deluxes on this album, which I'd never really covered that ground before. But it's interesting. Yeah.
That's cool. And I think the regular SG is a fairly light guitar compared to a Les Paul. Is the Les Paul SG much heavier like a standard gold top Les Paul?
It's actually
even lighter. Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It's a very light instrument. It's lighter. It's lighter than most guitars, actually. Which is another reason why I prefer it. And it's got a very thin neck.
It allows you to do those up in the air things more.
Yeah, that's right. My Billy Gibbons.
Yeah. I would imagine you guys play a lot of practical jokes on each other, especially on the road. And I'm always looking for new ideas. What's the best one so far? And are there any rules about getting drunk on the bus?
Oh no. The only rule is you're not allowed to be sober on the bus. No,
that's marking the door. It's a precursor. Yeah, I don't know. Man. What about the first time we went to Sweden? You remember that?
Oh man, yeah, that was a great one.
The sun never set. The sun never set.
The sun never sets in Sweden, so we were naturally up all night, and the whole jet lag and the whole, so we were up all night, and our manager was over there with us, and we thought it would be really, our hotel rooms were right across the hallway from each other. And we thought it would be hilarious to take every single item in our hotel, like desks, chairs, couches, plants, and set it up like in the hallway right outside of this hotel room. So
We
and
blocked the whole hallway.
so and it was the end of the little run in Sweden. So we knew that he was going to be getting up and flying out at 4. He was getting up at 4 in the morning that day. So we stayed up and we set up shop right outside of this hotel room. And sure enough, we heard his alarm go off and we knew that he was waking up. And as soon as he walked out the door, we were all just sitting there in what had to have been the just weirdest experience ever for him.
That was amazing.
That was incredible.
Yeah, that or the I mean, if we could count how many televisions we've destroyed in the tour buses, wow. I don't think we've ever been able to actually watch television.
And it's funny because it started out as an accident, you know, like it was never intentional. It's just things kind of get thrown around, and tour buses are really, they're massive, but they're tiny. You know, it's easy to just walk next to someone and knock a TV off the mount. And but
wow. And that is the threshold of what we can tell you in politically speaking.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to know any of those lurid stories. One last question for you. You've broken a lot of barriers in your career, obviously, but tell me about your biggest career highlight to date, if you can think of one that was just like a surreal, like, oh my God moment.
Performing with Sir Elton John was, it's hard to beat that for me.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's these little flashes of memory that sort of, you know, permanently live in my mind somewhere. But it's always like when we're performing and you close your eyes and then you sort of disappear. And then you come back down and you're opening your eyes and you're standing in Quebec and you're playing to an audience of like 300,000 people in the rain. I mean, that's type of thing to me, you kind of realize in those moments that you're standing somewhere where not many men have stood before, and you're sort of meant to be in one moment at one time. And that it's just those are the surreal kind of moments to me.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on everything. Again, fingers crossed at 2021. We'll see you guys back out on the road and out here on the West Coast. Jake and Danny, please tell Josh and Sam that we said hi from Reno and would love to see you play here in our neck of the woods sooner than later, man. And stay safe. Take care of each other. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll give them your best.
All right. Congratulations on the new release. Can't wait to get way deep into it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.